Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Cox, and I'm the host of the New America Movement. We thank you for tuning into our show today because, wow, we've got an exciting 30, 40 minutes that we're going to be talking about some issues here that are very, very powerful. As you know, Roe v. Wade has been overturned, and wow, it is rocking the country. But people are literally losing their mind over this issue. I'm amazed as an American citizen how many people just basically don't understand basic law in this country. I'm not going to go any further until I introduce my guest today, and of course my host, Jordan Cox. Jordan, weigh in and say hello.
What's going on, everybody?
Got a hot show today, don't we?
Oh, it's going to be good.
And I have my producer who is biting at the bit to get on this show and talk about what's going on with Roe v. Wade. And this is Ed Leese. We appreciate him being on the show today.
Absolutely.
And we're just going to rattle about Roe versus Wade because this is, first of all, a prayer answered by churches all over America that saw this 50 years ago as the greatest atrocity that this country has ever been involved in. And this started 50 years ago when it was passed that a woman could have an abortion, and the left took it. And I want to say this is the left's fault. What happened this week is solely upon the shoulders of the left-wing liberals because they took this, what was a basic abortion that has always been wrong and in the eyes of the church is sin, and most people in America saw as a high form of immorality and just simply murder. And man, they want to take it all the way to 9 months plus.
Well,
so
what they
weigh
did,
in on it, Jordan. Jump in on it.
Well, what they did was, and everybody knows that we're against abortion. Everybody knows that. But what they did was it went from you could have an abortion, up to a certain amount of weeks until, there's a heartbeat. You can't do it no more. Then it went past the heartbeat. Then it went up to, you could get in the second trimester. Then it went up to the third trimester. Then it went up till actual birth. So you could carry the baby for 9 months and then decide, well, I just don't want this baby. So, and that happens. So the whole issue I got with this is you're right. You're 100% right. The liberals and the Democrats have started, and this is all their fault. They started this whole thing, and this is their fault completely. They radicalized abortion, already radical concept, and made it 10 times worse. Okay, so they had people on their side in the beginning because people could understand, this or that, or a few weeks, it's a fetus, so but once you get to 10 fingers and 10 toes and people started then saying, I'm backing up a little bit, I'm not really with that. Then you got up to the second trimester and to the third trimester until up to birth, and then you lost everybody. Then you lost the majority of Americans. And they were like, this is just too far. And that is the reason why Roe v. Wade was overturned, I believe. First of all, because it's unconstitutional. It's not in our Constitution to have an abortion.
Well, let's talk about that a moment, because a lot of people assume that this decision was based upon our Constitution, and women, by the statement of a Constitution in this country, gave them that right. But one of the things the Supreme Court did was just viewing what the Constitution really said. It said, listen, it doesn't mention abortion. It doesn't say anything in reference to it. And for us to have made this decision 50 years ago was a horrible mistake on the part of our Supreme Court leaders. So they're just rectifying a wrong that they did 50 years ago. Ed, jump in on this. What do you think about it? You're our guest today, and what's your thoughts on this?
Well, okay, we got to take it back to facts and statistics. Some of the things that I look at is, so when did this happen? It was 1973, right? Yep. 1973. We are just coming 1 or 2 years, probably have 1 or 2 years, 3 years of withdrawal from the social what do they call it? Summer of love, right? So we had all this liberalism that's coming out. Now, let's go back 10 years before that. You have the time of when JFK was in office. He was a Democrat, but he was a classical liberal, not the Democrat of today. Not the Democrat of today. The whole thing, for the most part, has shifted as to where you're either a conservative or you're a socialist. That's where I'm at on it. So what socialists want to do is think that they have this democratic republic, which they don't have a democratic republic. We have never torn up the Constitution. We still live here in the United States under a constitutional republic, and that's what laws are balanced against. So what we're doing now is that, I mean, if we're being real, and I'm trying not to use any profanity during today, if we're being real, we finally have enough people in office with enough cojones, let's say, to actually take the existing law and to see what it looks like versus the mirror of the Constitution. And when you look at the Constitution, even the amendments that are in it, you don't see abortion. You don't see that. You don't see gun laws from the Constitution. You don't see, you could go as far as you don't see gay marriage in the Constitution. You don't see any of these things. So, fast forwarding through the 70s there, you've got Carter, you've got some sort of liberalized Republicans that were in office. Then you hit, and not just the presidential office, but then you hit like the Reagan era, and it sort of stalls. A lot of people are thinking about the Cold War, right? And then you keep moving, and then you get into Bill Clinton, where things that are on television, talking openly sexualized things that he did in office, are now normal. So we've got this stepping away of having sensitivity to things. We've been desensitized to all this stuff. And then, you have Bush, and what does he have? He's got 9/11. You have all these things happening, and then you have 8 years of Barack Obama, where everything is now race. So we're locked into the sexualized thing. 10 years before that, and 10 years before that was the summer of love. So now we come to Joe Biden. We had 4 good years under Trump, prosperity. We had it all. In the end, COVID happened, and then Joe Biden picked up COVID in the beginning of his term and is dealing with it, but a total near communistic lockdown of things. So we're coming out of all that. We've got 2 years of America just being held down, essentially locked down. Even you get a bad look if you're not wearing a mask at the grocery store. All these things, and it's your choice. It's your choice to wear it. You don't have to wear it, whatever. But now it's like boom, things are opening back up, including people's eyes. We have just been spoon-fed this leftist, liberal ideology, and it's not even really leftist. It's more communist. It's more Unitarian. It's more universal. There's a spiritual aspect to it. Even the God of the Bible from the 1960s is now this whatever you want it to be, just like gender is whatever you want it to be, just like marriage is whatever you want it to be, just like a baby is whatever you want it to be. So as long as it isn't considered the baby, and getting back to the abortion, as long as it is not considered a child, they say fetus, which is Latin for baby, as long as you don't say that it's a child, it's now a parasite.
We can't treat them as if they're humans.
But you don't see people going around and aborting bald eagles. You don't see them going around with ocean turtles and getting all these things, but they keep them highly prized. They keep them to where there's $100,000 fine for crushing a bald eagle egg. But you literally can see the crown of your child's head in the birth canal of your wife, and it's her choice for a doctor to either crush the skull and vacuum it out or stab a pair of scissors in the back of its head to kill it, because it's not human. So what is the difference? They say, well, it's not viable. It can't do anything on its own at this point. Well, I submit to you, even a 1, 2, 3 month old outside of the womb, lay them on the ground. They can't do it either. So what is the difference? As long as we don't call it a child, it's not. Therefore, it's morally okay in their book to take care of. And at the whole time, you have your own power, you have your own autonomy, and there's no authority above you. And in fact, the government allows you to do these things and at some point pays for it. So what do you guys got?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a massive slip on morality in this country. Back years ago, there was a sense of right and wrong. There was a sense of what we thought was permissible and what wouldn't be. But somehow the left have worked very hard on getting rid of that idea of morality, of right and wrong, that if you feel it, it's okay. If you think it, it's okay.
So I just want to, both of y'all are 100% right. And what they did was they changed the definitions. So just like Ed said, if you change it to where it's not a child, you change your moral. But you got to change the definition first, right? You can't say, okay, well, I'm gonna go abort a child. You have to change the definition. I'm gonna go abort a fetus. I'm gonna go get the fetus aborted, and then when you do that, you start changing the terminology in your head. Okay, so the left changes definitions up to make you feel morally right about it, but it's not, because you can't sit there and defend that. But that's what they do. That's just that they switch it up and they make the terminology and morals out the window.
It is interesting. Now, what I want to ask a question, get your opinion on this. Churches have prayed, they have rallied, they have marched, they have had a lot of opinions about getting rid of Roe versus Wade. Now that it's happened, and it's actually, for the most part, illegal to have abortion in this country on a federal level. States will determine, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too. States will have to make their own laws and regulations on how they're going to do abortions. But I'm wondering, because I did get a little bit of information and an idea about that maybe a lot of churches and pastors weren't going to say anything at all about Roe versus Wade. Now, to me, I pastored 35 years. I would think that this morning across America, churches would be clapping and applauding that this is an answer to prayer. We have right or wrong. We have saved literally thousands of lives a week because of this decision of the Supreme Court. I'm not sure what role the church actually played in, other than the prayer and support of politicians. But what do you think pastors this morning are saying in their pulpits? Do you think pastors are getting up across America and applauding this decision, or do you think they're just going to be silent on the issue?
So, first of all, no, I don't think churches are doing anything right now. Now, there are a lot of Catholic churches that I've read about that are praising this stuff, or praising that Roe v. Wade's been overturned. But as of churches, the non-denominational churches, other denominations, I have not seen one church, and it's one of those things to where they're waiting.
Well, we don't know that all churches have done that, but what I want to ask the audience, has your pastor stood up this morning and declared this a victory? Has your church and your pastor stood up? Because here's what a lot of people are afraid of. They're afraid that, well, would I lose people if I do that? What do you think?
No, you're absolutely right, but that's the problem. The question is the church standing up? No. And the reason they're not is because they're waiting to see what other churches do. Because like you said, it is going to hurt. It's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt their pocketbook. It's going to hurt their, it could hurt some of their members' feelings. Okay, so, but what they're waiting on is for these other churches and stuff like that to come about and speak up. Then they're going to say, okay, well, like these mega churches and stuff like that. Then you'll see other churches come in and do it. But why wait?
So you're just saying they're playing it safe.
Super safe. Okay. They're playing it. Yeah, absolutely.
Ed, what do you think about
Well,
that?
this morning, I was at church this morning, and we actually had it wasn't a regular pastor. But what he said was, because our regular pastor was going on vacation, so what he said was that there has been a decision handed down from up high about what is going on. If you're on social media, you watch the news, you know what it is. Now, saying that and hearing applause from it, fantastic. Now, are some churches not doing it? Probably not, because like you said, they just want to see what's going on. But other times too is like, you can't really say who to vote for. You can't, when you get into political stuff, it puts people in a tight spot. And some are more, they're more fearful of man than they are of God. And Scripture says that, all over the place. So they won't say the, Roe versus Wade has been overturned and praise the Lord. But this guest pastor, he talked about it, and he said, birthdays are more important now. And we sit down and we talk, and we talked with our daughters especially about it. So it wasn't overtly, spoken of, but what's going on if you're alive today in this monumental decision. So
I feel like, and I want to ask you this: I feel like since us as Christians, I feel like it is an obligation that we have, that we do need to praise the fact that Roe v. Wade's been overturned, because of the fact 63 million babies, I believe, have been aborted.
I believe it's